Okay, today's Q&A is a sort of a theoretical question, just for understanding, which is, do hashgachas rely on Bitul when they decide that a food is kosher, when they give hashgacha to something? And the answer is that, as a rule, a reputable hashgachas will not certify a product if it has even the tiniest amounts of something not kosher, and for the same matter, the tiniest amount of dairy into a para product, etc. So from that perspective, no, they wouldn't give hashgacha to it. But the halachas of Bitul are relevant in three scenarios that I can think of. And the first is for b'diavad. What happens when there's a mistake and something that was not kosher or milchigs or chametz was put into a food where it was not supposed to be put into it? Or the same type of question, which is, what happens if the company put a logo onto a product that they weren't supposed to? It wasn't a mistake, as in, by mistake putting a little milchigs. They just randomly put the logo onto something that wasn't me, and now we have to figure out, okay, what do we do now? Now that it happened, what should be the status of that product? So in those kind of cases, this is one example of where the halachas of Bitul make a difference. And I'll explain to you like this. There's a lot of brands of margarine that are certified as dairy, meaning they're not chol v'yisrael, they're certified dairy. And it happens all the time. By mistake, a consumer will buy it, they think it was parav, and they use it to make something in a fleshig dish or in a fleshig oven. So what do they do now? So part of the answer to that person's question is say, well, how much dairy was actually in the margarine? And then maybe what we had was batul, and not that we would have called it parav. They called it dairy, but this person, was a mistake happened. And so it could be that b'diavad the food's going to be mutter. So the hashgacha is the one who could find out, who might know already, or could find out how much dairy is actually in there to answer the question. And the same thing also was if a product was marked parav or kasher pesach or kosher, and it wasn't really supposed to be marked whatever one of those things is. So part of the decision of what to do now that it happened is to figure out, are there non-kosher ingredients in there? Are they batul? Are they potentially batul? Which would be one step in figuring out what to do about this product that went out incorrectly marked. Now, the second reason why we care about Bitul has to do with kashering, and that is if you use equipment to cook or heat products that were not kosher, and now you want to use it for kosher, then you have to kasher it in between. But if the only thing that was non-kosher was an ingredient that was batul, then the ikar din is that food is really kosher. B'diavad, the food was kosher. Well, if the food is b'diavad kosher, then you don't need to kasher the equipment before you use it for kosher. So that means is, like for example, there's lots of energy drinks or health drinks that have trace amounts of non-kosher components. Like let's say it has a drop of collagen in it, and the collagen is made from animals. It's not kosher. Now, of course, we wouldn't certify that drink as kosher because it has this non-kosher ingredient. But if the non-kosher ingredient is batul, then the equipment that was used to process it didn't become treif. Well, if it didn't become treif, then we can make the kosher product right afterwards without having to kasher in between. So that's another case where we care about Bitul. Halachas of Bitul play a role in giving hashgacha on the other products. And the last is when things that are not certified. So I've been mentioned many things. You can't certify these items because they have some non-kosher ingredient in it. But consumers will ask and say, okay, you're involved with the production in this factory. I want to know, is it b'diavad is the product mutter? Why? I want to know if halachically I could take it. For example, it's for a medicine type item, or if it's an infant formula, or if it's something for someone who has some desperate need to have that item, where you wouldn't give hashgacha to it, but maybe you could tell me whether it's permitted as part of a rabbi answering a shayla of whether this person should take a product that they really need. Is this permitted or is it not permitted to take that? So again, the mashgiach or the person who knows about that food production can help out in figuring out whether the treif that was in there was batul, or if it was batul or not. So then the rabbi can make a decision whether a person should eat this food if the person really needs it. Now, just a couple of things to think in mind when you talk about these kind of Bitul calculations. First is that ratios of Bitul, it has to, let's say usually batul b'shishim, so 60-to-1 ratio, is based on the volume of the ingredients as opposed to the weight. Most companies work in weight, so they'll tell you there's 5% of this ingredient. Well, that means 5% by weight, and what we care about is how much volume it takes up. Second thing is, most companies don't want to share the amount of ingredients of each ingredient that's in something. It's considered proprietary. So when there's a pressing need, an agent's hashgacha can ask them and possibly get information about that. But as a rule, companies are not happy to share you basically the recipes with them. And last is that there are some ingredients that are in tiny amounts, but they play some special role, or they're very prominent. They're Bitul, they're Ramayim, some kind of special role that they play in the food, and they can't be bottled, even though there's a tiny amount of it in the food.